everyone, welcome to Reading with Evie. Today we are reading chapters 31 to 35 of A Curse So Dark and Lonely by Brigid Kemmerer. Don't forget your tea and a cozy blanket, and let's get into this. Chapter 31, Harper. An arm encircles my waist and I can't move. I'm so stupid. At first I thought it was Ren grabbing me to adjust my stance somehow, and I probably lost a moment to fight. But from the corner of my eye I see Ren being slammed into the side of the stall. Hot breaths sing. Give me a second. Hot breath singes my ear, and the heavy weight of a man is at my back. The arm around my waist pulls tight, lifting me just off the ground and blocking the dagger that Gray belted onto me. I struggle, but his grip turns painful. An arm wraps around my ribcage from behind, a fist pressing into my neck. "Be still, princess," a vaguely mocking voice says in my ear. Dozens of faces surround us, but I can't see Ren now. I can't see Gray. "Kill their guards," a man yells somewhere to my left. "Take the prince alive. Do what you want with the princess." The bow is still clutched in my hand, and I whip it back over my shoulder. The man grunts in surprise and redoubles his grip. His wrist presses into my throat hard. I can't breathe. Spots flare in my vision. A thwick snaps beside my head, and the hand at my neck drops away. I collapse into a pool of blue and white silk and lace. My knees crack into the cobblestone. There's a man on the ground behind me. A knife sticks out of his eye. The other is open and staring and dead. I give a short scream, but the sound is lost in the mayhem of the crowd surrounding us. My eyes find another man dead. A knife juts out of his neck. Another lies 5 feet to my right, blood staining the front of his clothing from chest to thigh. I scramble backward on the stones. I finally find Ren. He's on his feet, his sword in his hand. His eyes are wary, trained behind me. Jameson is beside him. Blood runs from a sharp cut over his eye. "No Gray. Where is Gray?" "Harper," says Ren. "Are you all right?" Before I can answer, another man rushes from the crowd, a dagger clutched in each fist. He leaps at me, one blade outstretched, and I duck and throw up an arm to protect myself. But that's not going to stop a dagger. Gray steps from behind me. His sword is an arc of silver in the sunlight. The man loses his hand. A quick blow from Gray's sword hilt sends him to the ground. Blood is suddenly everywhere. I can't quite process it. I'm going to hyperventilate. The man can't seem to process it either. He's almost instantly ashen. He stares at the stump of his arm and starts screaming. Blood collects between the cobblestones. What did Gray say this morning? We take few chances. Chaos surrounds us, and I can't tell if people are trying to swarm closer or trying to escape. Maybe both. My breath roars in my ears, adrenaline coursing hard with every beat of my heart. I can't look away from the splattered blood in front of me. Ren steps forward to offer a hand, and I take it. He pulls me to my feet and draws me against him. I want to bury my face in his chest. That might not be what a princess would do, but there's blood in the air and gore on the cobblestones, and my brain wants to curl up and hide. But we're surrounded. I have no idea whether this crowd is hostile or friendly, or if we have any way to get free. Gray puts one booted foot on the man's severed forearm and levels the point of his sword at the man's throat. He must apply pressure because the man's high-pitched screams change to choked whimpers. Gray looks to Ren, clearly waiting for an order. "Not yet," Ren says. He looks around at the crowd of people. "Anyone else?" he calls. His voice isn't arrogant. It's full of fury. A voice that says anyone else will be swiftly dealt with. The crowd seems to feel it too. People move back, away from the carnage on the ground. Gray's expression has no give to it now. This isn't the man who charmed smiles out of children in the snow. This isn't even the man who spoke passionately of honor and duty in the hallway. This is the lethal swordsman who kidnapped me. This is the scariest Gray of all. He's going to bleed to death, I say to Ren, my voice broken and small. He has time, Ren glares down at the man. He was going to kill you, my lady. Let him think on his fate. The man's face is white now, but he spits at Ren. You left us. Your family left us to that monster. The metallic tang of his blood mixes with the scent of snow and fish in the air, turning my stomach. I was so cavalier at the inn, ordering Gray to show those soldiers I meant business. Every time something happens here, the stakes seem to grow larger. Your family left us to that monster. While I'm standing there staring at him with a dry mouth and trembling hands, the man is bleeding to death in the cobblestone. Kill him, Wren says. Let him be an example. No, screams a woman from the crowd. Gray lifts his sword. I stumble away from Wren and put a hand on his arm. Wait. My voice almost breaks again. Wait. Gray waits. Don't kill him. My voice shakes with adrenaline, and I have to fight to get the words out. Do you have a doctor here? A healer? He needs a tourniquet. An older woman pushes through the people, but stops at the edge. Her face is red and tear-streaked. She must be the one who screamed. She gives a rough curtsy. Your Highness, I can bind his arm. Do it, I say. Wren's hand is still locked on mine, but his fingers are like steel. I can't look at him. I'm worried that his face will show that I'm making the wrong decisions here, but I can't watch another man die in front of me. The woman takes a hesitant step forward, then glances at Gray. Commander, I have to clear my throat. My eyes feel damp. Let her work. He takes a step back. He does not sheath his sword. The woman crouches beside the fallen man and pulls lengths of muslin from a satchel. She speaks to the man on the ground, and her voice shakes as much as mine. Alan, why would you do such a thing? His voice is rough and broken. They will bring war to Silvermoon for their own selfishness. A loud murmur runs through the crowd. I flinch. The Queen of Shallow will bring war. A war I'm promising to fight with an invisible army. Wren looks at the people again. Silence. Silence drops like a rock. Fear hangs in the air, more potent than even before. I can feel the uncertainty in the crowd. The man's whimpers mix with the woman's panicked breath. I will not have more blood spilled in Silvermoon, Wren says. You are my people, and I have sworn to protect you. He glances at me. The Princess of DC has sworn to protect you, and even today shows mercy to a man who deserves none. A low murmur passes through the crowd. Silence, Wren calls again. They obey. He looks out at them. You once swore fealty to my father, to me. I know you are afraid. I know the Queen of Shallow has begun an attack on Emberfall. I know you worry. I know you have been left to fend for yourselves for far too long. Passion rings in every word. They're listening. He takes a step forward. I am here now, and I will fight with you. I will fight for you. I will fight with you. I will give my life for you. My question is, will you do the same for Silvermoon, for Emberfall? Silence hangs for the longest moment. Wren hits his chest and steps forward. Will you do the same for me? His people seemed frozen. But the woman crouched over Alan, ties a last knot in her bandage, and straightens to a kneel. I will, Your Highness. No, Alan grows. Marna, no. Marna puts a hand over her chest. Her voice shook before, but now her tone is clear and solid, for the good of Emberfall. A large, older man with a full beard and a belly that hangs over his belt steps away from the crowd. He falls to his knees. I will, Your Highness. Another man, younger, his face pale and fixed on a carnage left in a circle, but his voice, too, is clear. I will, Your Highness. Slowly at first, then with more speed, the remaining people in the marketplace fall to knee. Their calls of I will turn deafening. Wren raises his sword, for the good of Emberfall. For the good of all, they call. I stare at him. He's turned the energy of the crowd from tension and doubt to loyalty. They would form an army and stand against this invading queen right now if he asked it. I can feel it. Rise, he says. Claim the deed. Have your bailiff take this man into custody. Then he sheaths his sword and turns to Marna. The princess has decreed that this man should live. If you make a list of what you need to treat his injury, I will have it provided. The woman looks a bit stunned. Yes, Your Highness. Who is he to you? Wren asks. My brother. Marna drags a shaking hand across one cheek. The creature killed his daughter 2 years ago. Beside me, Wren goes still. You have my sympathy. He pauses. You were the first to swear. Why is that? The woman pushes a strand of gray hair behind her ear. I remember the king's visits to Silvermoon, Your Highness. He would not have let this man live. But Wren glances at me. The Princess of DC allowed him to live. But you allowed the choice. Marna hesitates again, but then seems to steal her nerve. But we have long thought the royal family had abandoned Emberfall. If rumor is true, they fled to save themselves, leaving us all at the mercy of the creature, and now at the mercy of Karis Lauren. Ren frowns. Yet still you swore to me. Yes, your highness, the woman bows her head. You alone came back. I want to go home, or at least back to the castle. I'm screwed on either count. Ren says we can't leave. He doesn't want to give the impression that we're easily code. I am, though. I'm code. Every time I blink, I see Alan's blood spilling across the cobblestones. But the worst was hearing Ren say kill him, and watching Gray lift his arm. We've moved to the commons now, an open area at the back of the market where food is cooked and sold. It's busy, but without the press of bodies that crowded the aisles of the marketplace. The scents of beer and cooked meat fill the air, undercut with the warm sweetness of baked bread. Dusk has fallen, painting the sky with streaks of pink and yellow, bringing a chill back to the air. More barrels of fire have been placed near the tables. Strange faces flicker in the firelight. Everyone looks at me. It was mildly unsettling before. Now that I know people want us dead, it's terrifying. The Grand Marshal and his Seneschal came to find us after the attack. They couldn't stop apologizing and insisted that adding a contingent of guards to back Gray and Jameson. Ren declined. A further show of trust, he explained to me. Though honestly, I'd kind of stopped listening to him by that point. It's all I can do to keep this mildly bored look plastered on my face. My lady. I blink and look up. Ren's been talking to me again. I'm sorry, what? His eyes are concerned. Here, sit. I will have some food brought. I don't think I can eat anything. You have eaten nothing since this morning. I keep my voice low. If you think I can eat after what happened, you're insane. Sit then. The guardsmen need to eat too. That startles me into sitting. I hadn't thought about Gray and Jameson. I will return in a moment, says Ren. A hand brushes over my shoulder before he strides away. Jameson close by his side. I'm alone at a large stone table, waiting on a wide wooden bench. Gray stands close by, the firelight flicking off the polished buckles of his uniform. Do you want to sit down? I ask him. He glances at me, but only for the briefest moment. I expect his voice to be short, sharp, the way his mood feels, but his tone is low, quiet. I should not. I follow his gaze to where Ren is speaking with a woman tending a spit. The woman laughs and curtsies. A coin sparks in the light as Ren hands it over. Gray's quiet voice gives me the courage to ask him a question I'm not sure I even want the answer to. Do you think there will be another attack? We are sorely outnumbered. That very nearly got the best of us earlier. One more attacker and we might have had a different outcome. I consider the thwick of his throwing knives, the way our attackers dropped on the stones. You seem to do okay. I am glad it seems so. It should not have happened at all. He nods towards where Ren is turning away from the hearth, Jameson at his heels. It is dangerous for us to be divided, even momentarily. Jameson is a soldier, not a guardsman. I forgot earlier. I will not forget again. I turn those words over in my head until I figure it out. Gray is mad at himself. Ren has moved to another vendor. I watch more coins change hands. Did I do the wrong thing? I say. My voice is rough and quiet. When Ren told you to kill that man, should I have let you do it? He looks out at... Whoa. That was weird. He looks out at the people milling around the commons, and for a moment I wonder if he won't answer this either. Our relationship seems to tick forward like the hands of a clock, always changing in relation to each other. Eventually Gray says, You are merciful and kind, but kindness and mercy always find their limit, beyond which they turn to weakness and fear. What's the limit? I say softly. His eyes find mine. That answer is difficult for each of us. Ren returns, carrying 2 earthenware mugs. He sets one on the table in front of you. If you will not eat, he says, please drink. I hesitate, then wrap my hands around the mug. Thanks. He seems encouraged by this, then drops onto the bench across from me. Food will be delivered soon. He glances up at the soldier. Jameson, Gray, join us. Behind him, Jameson moves forward and places the two-handled steins he carries in one hand on the table as well, then swings a leg over the bench. He pushes one stein across the table, his expression easy. Commander? Gray remains next to me. From the corner of my eye, I see him give Jameson a look. The soldier falters, then begins to rise. No, says Wren. Sit. He looks up at Gray. That is an order. Gray sits. He doesn't touch the mug. I believe we are winning over the people, Wren says. I want them to know we are confident despite the attack, and they have our trust. He looks at Gray. Do you disagree, Commander? Gray may be sitting at the table, but his eyes are still on the people surrounding us. Allow me to answer once I make it out of Silvermoon without an arrow in my back. Look around. The Grand Marshal has dispatched his own guards anyway. Anyone would be foolish to make a move now. He did. I look around and I see them. The uniformed men and women lurking in the shadows. It makes me feel better. A little. Wren looks at me. His voice is quiet. Our visit has been a success, my lady. I'm not sure I agree. I take a sip from the mug he brought. A woman approaches with a tray loaded with platters of roasted meat. She unloads everything onto the table between us. Eat. Wren pushes a platter in my direction. Please. It's the please that gets to me. There isn't much, Wren says, that isn't a command. I gingerly pick at the food, which reminds me of a chicken stew, though slightly different. Instead of savory, there's a bit of sweetness on my tongue. A young woman approaches the table, and Gray is on his feet in one quick fluid motion. The girl stops short. She wears braids down to her waist and a red dress that looks striking against her warm brown skin. Her dark, worried eyes glance from Gray to Wren, and she offers a low curtsy. Forgive me, Your Highness. I am Zoe, apprentice to the Master of Song for Silvermoon. I wish to request an audience with you. Wren nods. It's all right, Commander. Zoe says, the king always opened the evening's dancing. I would ask if you and the princess might care to do the same. Wren looks at me. Would you care to dance, my lady? He must be kidding. No, I say tightly. Thank you. Wren gives me a long look, then turns back to the girl. Another time, perhaps. She hesitates before turning away. Is it true the Royal Guard is once again accepting applicants? Yes, says Wren. If you know someone. I'm asking for myself. Wren inhales to speak. I have no idea what he's going to say, but I remember how he reacted to Jameson, much less a girl my size. I'm already irritated, so I say, yes, come to the castle to apply. Her face lights with a smile. She offers a curtsy before dashing away. I take another bite of the stew and keep my eyes on my plate. My shoulders are rigid for an entirely new reason. We eat in silence for the longest time. Men and women begin moving toward the back of part of the commons, gathering in the open space that must be reserved for dancing. Eventually, Wren looks to Jameson and Gray. Leave us. They do, moving away to stand at a short distance. I still don't look at Wren. You seem displeased, he says. His voice carries enough edge that I think he's the one who's displeased. Why would you ask me to dance? I demanded. We just killed people. It's inappropriate. People attacked us and lost their lives. We did not randomly slaughter people in the streets. We cannot afford to appear weak, my lady. I wonder if that's a dig about the man I allowed to live, or a dig about the girl I just invited to apply for the Royal Guard. Gray was right about limits. I have no idea where mine are. I have no idea where Wren's are, for the matter. Fine, I say. Even if it were appropriate, I can barely walk without limping. You think I can glide around the dance floor? I've got one mark of failure on my cheek. I don't need to give anyone any more evidence. Wren's eyes narrow slightly. You believe I asked you as some form of humiliation? I have no idea, but you are even thinking about what you're asking? You think the people are going to see me as a fierce warrior queen when I fall on my face? Enough. His tone is sharp. You can ride a horse. You faced a swordsman to save Freya's family. You faced another at the inn, and still yet another attack this very morning. He leans in against the table. His eyes have turned dark and angry. You asked Gray to teach you how to throw knives. You asked me to show you how to handle a bow. You have convinced my people that you rule a neighboring nation, and I don't think you understand the magnitude of how very impressive that is. Fine. What's your point? He looks as irritated as I feel. All of that, and you somehow believe I seek to humiliate you by dancing. He slams down his beer stein. My lady, I must ask, are you even thinking about what you are asking? Before I can respond, he rises from the bench and storms away. Chapter 32. Wren. I storm to the edge of the commons, where the ground drops away in nearly a sheer cliff, revealing the harbor below, docks and ships glistening in the rising moonlight. Smaller fishing wherries and larger cabbing boats are docked for the winter season, and ice clings to the posts in the water. Candlelight flickers in a few windows, but most buildings stand dark and quiet. Lanterns swing jauntily as sailors and dock workers head home. Along a deserted, icy dock, I spot a couple wrapped in a loving embrace. So easy, so unfair. Music carries across the ceiling, and couples have joined to dance at the far side of the commons. Torches blaze along tall posts surrounding the band. Despite the merriment, I can feel the weight of eyes on my back. I've provided enough gossip to occupy the people of Silvermoon for days. I seized control by stopping an attack and demanding allegiance. Now I'm about to undo it all because of one moment of irritation. I never should have stalked off the way I did. Imagine my father's voice. People can create scandal from a word, from a look. You, son, give them no shortage of either. Harper draws up beside me. I don't look at her. I'm not sure what I want to say. She must sense my quarrelsome mettle because she says nothing herself. I feel as though I owe her an apology, but possibly that she owes me one as well. We stand together, staring out at the water, and the night sky sprinkled with stars. Wind whips off the harbor to whistle between us, ruffling my hair and lifting her skirts. Silence stretches on for ages, until my irritation begins to dissipate, turning the quiet into something warmer, easier. In the castle, I say eventually. The music never changes. Every season, the songs begin again, no matter what I do. She is quiet, and music swells from the opposite side of the clearing, muffled because we're so near the water, and the creaking of the boats and the gently slapping waves provide an undercurrent of sound. I used to love music, I say. My family did too. This is part of why the instruments play every day. My father once ordered it so. Music at every party, every event, every morning at daybreak. I once loved it. She still says nothing, but I can see the edge of her profile. She's turned to look at me slightly. I keep my eyes on the harbor. Now I hate it. She lets out a breath, a sound of acquiescence or defeat. But the music here is new. A pause. Different. Yes. Asking me to dance wasn't part of a calculated effort to win over your people. This was about distracting yourself from the curse. She's right. But put that way, my motives seem childish, especially considering our goals here. I frown. Okay, she says. Show me. I look at her, raise an eyebrow. She wets her lips. I'm not going to be good at it, but when I was younger, my physical therapist recommended ballet to help stretch my muscles and improve balance. But I hated it. I was terrible. Mom had to use horseback riding as a bribe to get me to go. A bribe to dance, of all things, so very Harper. I extend a hand. May I? She looks at my hand and hesitates. I wait. Her hand finally drops into mine, her fingers soft, light against my own. I turn her to face me, then place her hand on my shoulder. Her breath catches. She is so still that I do not think she's breathing. I step closer until her skirts brush my legs, and I rest a hand on her waist. I am inviting you to dance, not dragging you behind a horse. I sigh dramatically. Must you look so tortured? That makes her smile. The expression must pull the stitches along her cheek, because the smile flickers and vanishes. Her free hand hovers, pausing over my own, as if she's debating whether to shove me away. She is so tense. The girl who climbed down the castle trellis and threw a knife at Lilith is afraid to dance. Is everyone staring at us? She whispers. Very likely, but I do not turn my head to see. Doubtful, I tell her. The night grows dark. A bit of warmth heats my face. My own eyes only see only you. She blushes, then shakes her head a little and looks out to the harbor. You're good at this. How many other girls did you dance with? What number would ease your worries? 12? 100? I pause. None? All? You're dodging the question. I have no answer. Who would keep count of such a thing? Besides, you must be aware I danced with other women even before the curse. I pause and move closer. I can say with certainty that I never taught any to dance at the edge of a cliff at Silvermoon. I'm standing, not dancing. All part of your lesson. Close your eyes. She scowls, but her eyes fall closed. I move even closer until we're barely separated by breath. Not moving, simply standing. Trapped between the quiet noises of the harbor and louder melody carrying across the commons. The moment strikes me with a memory and I do not move. Before the curse, I say slowly, I would sometimes dance with my sister. Arabella? I'm startled that she remembers. No, never Arabella. She had no shortage of suitors, and no shortage of temper to keep them in line. My youngest sister, Isidore. My voice thickens with emotion, which takes me by surprise. I need to clear my throat. She was barely 14, but the Grand Marshal of Boone River had expressed an interest in marriage. The man was 3 times her age. When he would come to court, Isa would make excuses about family obligations, then seek me out and attach herself to my side. My voice trails off. I'm not entirely sure why I began this line of conversation. Harper opens her eyes. Her fingers have relaxed on my shoulder, and now her forearm rests along my bicep. Her waist soft under my hand. You and Isa were close. No, I shake my head. I was the crown prince. I was raised apart from my sisters. In truth, I rarely saw her. I blink, though, and I see Isa in my mind, the way I found her after my first transformation. Her body was nowhere near those of the rest of the family. To this day, I wonder if Isa was coming to find me, as if I weren't the cause of the very destruction she sought to escape. Harper's eyes were dark with empathy. I'm sorry, Ren. It was quite a long time ago. I do not know what made me speak of it. My thoughts tangle with remorse, and I feel as though I have lost my way. I blink and shake my head, wishing the memories could be shaken off so easily. Where were we? Dancing lessons. Ah, yes. I lean close again. Close your eyes. She does. We have not yet moved, but conversation or pity has distracted her. I step forward, giving a soft push with my hand. She yields, stepping back too quickly. Easy, I say softly, keeping a hold of her waist. Do not run from me. Sorry. Her eyes slid open. I told you I was terrible at this. I shake my head. Eyes closed. She obeys, which must be something of a miracle. Another step, I say, and then 3 to the side, then 3 back. While her motions are slow and halting, she stays within the circle of my arms and allows me to lead. Gradually, bit by bit, muscle by muscle, she relaxes into the movement. Our steps begin to match the music from across the clearing. For an instant, I allow myself to forget the curse. We dance in the moonlight at the edge of the cliff, surrounded by the night air. The song ends, quickly replaced by something fast and lively. I stop, and Harper does too. Her eyes open, she looks up at me. This one's too fast, she says quietly. We can wait for another. I expect her to pull away, but she does not. I think the standing still part is my favorite. I smile. You do it quite masterfully. Her eyes narrow a fraction, catching sparks in the moonlight. You're not as arrogant as you pretend to be. I go still. You're really good at laying on the charm, she says, but I like this Ren better. This Ren. When you're not scheming and you're just doing, she pauses. Like your story about Isidore. You made it sound like she was an annoying little sister, but I think you liked it. Or the way you won't let Gray go after Lilith. At first I thought it was a pride thing, but it's not. You're protecting him. Her assessment reminds me of Gray's when we stood outside the inn in the snow, when I teased him about punishment for falling asleep on guard. Then he said, the king would have, but not you, I do not think. At the time, his comment made me feel weak. Harper's comment does not. And you're unexpectedly patient, she says. For someone who expects everything to be done on his command, she is wrong. My shoulders tense. But at the same time, I do not want her to stop. As always, her words speak right into the core of me. But these do not feel like censure and instead light me with warmth. No one would ever call me patient. You are, in a different way. In what way? In the fact that you're standing here, not making me feel like an idiot because I can't dance. She pauses. The way you didn't make me feel like an idiot for asking you to show me how to shoot an arrow. You did that quite well, I say, and mean it. Her voice goes quiet. The way you don't treat me like I can't do something. Truly, I release her hand to brush the errant lock of hair from her face. You have convinced me you can do anything, she blushes. Don't start with the compliments. It is not a compliment. My fingers linger along her jaw, tracing the softness of her skin. Even now, she says, you're out here risking our lives, trusting me to help you save your people when you don't really know anything about me. When you're probably supposed to be back at the castle feeding me grapes and trying to get me to fall in love with you. Grapes, I say. Is that what it would take? The red ones are secretly the way to my heart. My thumb strokes over the curve of her lip. Her breath shudders. Her free hand flies up to catch my wrist. I freeze. She will shove me away again, the way she did in the inn. Wait, she whispers. Just wait. Then her lip quirks and she repeats my line from earlier. Do not run from me. I will not run. To my surprise, tears form in her eyes. A glint of diamonds on her lashes. I want to trust you, she says, so quietly that her voice could get lost in the wind. I want to know it's real, not that you're trying to trick me to break the curse. I do not understand how she can fill me with such hope and fear simultaneously. I pull her hand to my chest and lean into her until we share a breath. My lips brush across hers. It is barely a kiss, but she is somehow closer to me. Her body a pool of warmth against mine. I want so desperately to turn it into more, to see where this blossoming attraction will lead. But I have come close before, and I have found this moment before. The only difference is that I never wanted it so badly. I draw back and press my lips to her forehead. I want to know it's real, too, I say. Her body goes still against mine, and then she nods. Her head falls against my shoulder, and her face close enough to breathe warmth against my neck. It puts my hand at the small of her back, the other on her shoulder. I speak low against her temple. Shall I have the guards call for the horses? Not yet, she says. Is that okay? Always. I stand and hold her until the music fades and the night grows too cold. But inside I'm warm. My heart wants to sing. We arrive at Iron Rose late. Stars light up the sky and torches burn along the front of the castle, lighting the spaces where guards once stood. Gray and Jameson take the horses, and I walk Harper through the great hall and up the sweeping staircase. The air is thick with tired silence, and neither of us breaks it. But for the first time, no wall of tension stands between us. We stop in front of her door, and she stops, and she looks up at me. Are we doing this all again tomorrow? I cannot tell from the tone of her voice whether she's eager or apprehensive or simply exhausted. No, I will have Gray send word to the Grand Marshal of Sillery Hill that we will visit in 3 days. In 3 days' time. I want to give news time to spread, so we'll stay here, if you find that acceptable. Maybe we could finish our lesson, since I didn't get to learn much. In dancing, I say, surprised. She swats at my arm. In shooting arrows, a faint blush finds her cheek, and she adds, but dancing would be okay, too. Anything you wish. I should probably go to bed, she says. But she lingers and makes no move to open her door, so I linger, wondering if this is an invitation to finish what we began at the edge of the cliff of Silvermoon. I'm not sure precisely what has changed between us, whether it's trust or respect or simply the ability to see each other in a different light. I'm not sure it matters. All I know is that I long to take her hand and lead her into her chambers, to sit at her side and share secrets, to run my fingers through her hair and discover the taste of her skin. I cannot remember the last time I felt this longing. In truth, I'm not sure I ever have. The door to Freya's room eases open. Harper jumps and takes a step back. Freya's eyes flash wide. Oh! She bobs a curtsy and speaks softly. Your Highness, my lady, forgive me. I was going to stoke the fire in the bedroom. What a coincidence, I think. I was just considering the very same thing. I turn to Harper before my thoughts can get ahead of me. I should leave you to your rest. I bow, then take her hand to brush a kiss across her knuckles. Until tomorrow, my lady. It takes every ounce of self-restraint I possess to walk away. My chambers are a well of darkness, the fire burning low in the hearth. The first season I was asleep by now, well fed and worn out after a long day of hunting with the king and other nobles. Men who had no idea what was in store for them. Exhaustion rides my back today as well. But it is no match for the tiny thrill of anticipation skipping through my veins. I leave my candles dark, enjoying the quiet after the noise of the day. I shed my weapons, my bracers and greaves, then begin to unbuckle my jacket. A long sigh escapes my chest. Hope is a luxury I cannot afford, an emotion I cannot dare to feel. Hope blooms in my chest anyway, a tiny bud giving way to the first light of spring. Petals daring to open to reveal the color inside. I want to know it's real. That must mean it's real for her. The last buckle gives and I toss the jacket on the chair. When my fingers find the lacings of my shirt, hands settle on my shoulders. I freeze. Prince Wren, says Lilith. I'd forgotten what a fine form you have. I jerk away and then turn to face her. I want to snatch the jacket back from the chair. What are you doing here? She moves closer to me. Her eyes dark in the firelit room. You once enjoyed my company in your chambers, she says. Has so much changed? You know what's changed. She steps closer, until a breath would bring my chest against hers. Did you have a chance? Wow, I'm great. Did you have a nice visit in Silvermoon? I'm amused at your attempts to convince the people you have secured this mysterious alliance. Tell me, what will you do when they discover your family is not in exile, but is actually dead? She feigns a gasp. Will you disclose that it happened by your own hand? If I can save Emberfall from Karis Lorne's army, I will worry about that day when it comes. I point it at the door. Leave my room, Lady Lilith. You are not welcome here. She lifts her hand to stroke down my chest, her fingers trailing a line of squirming discomfort along my skin that makes me gasp and jerk away before I can stop it. This will lead nowhere good. I seize her wrist. What do you want? She steps into me, pressing our hands together between our bodies. It's like clutching a coal against my ribcage, and it pulls a low sound from my throat. I attempt another step back, but now she holds fast. I can stop this so easily, she breathes. Have you ever considered wooing me to break this curse? Get off of me. I want the words to be a threat, but they're more of a plea. She rises on her tiptoes and brushes her lips over mine, a cruel perversion of the moment I shared with Harper. I turn my face away, pain stealing my breath. You are not to interfere. I interfere with nothing, she whispers against my cheek. Your broken girl is nowhere to be found. A pause. Do you wish to call her? Perhaps she would like to beg for more. No. Lilith laughs, her breath a rush of heat along my neck. You are so easy, Wren. This is why you will not reclaim Emberfall. This is why your kingdom would have fallen, even without my interference. Do you know I tried to seduce your father first, but he turned me away? She leans down close again. The king of Emberfall knew, even then, that succumbing to the wrong temptation could undo a man. My father, the great philanderer, who would bed any courtesan in eyesight, had the wherewithal to say no to Lilith. Ever the fool, I walked right into her trap. Another bolt of failure to join the others lodged in my heart. I clenched my eyes closed. You will leave Harper alone. You will leave Grey alone. Her tongue traces the length of my jaw, and I shudder. Of course, your highness. You know I would much rather play with you. Her hand catches my chin, turns my head, and her lips press against mine. My jaw is locked, but it doesn't matter. This is the worst kind of torture. Something more than pain. I think of Harper standing in the clearing, and her hand on my shoulder. Gentle fingers wound through mine. I want to know it's real. I think of Harper throwing a knife at Lilith. Please stop hurting him. Humiliation burns my eyes, my throat. When she breaks the kiss, relief nearly breaks me. I want to shove her away, but I am pinned to the wall. My breathing is rough and ragged. I cannot look at her. I can barely move. My hands are still in fists, my muscles so tense I am trembling. Any hope that bloomed in my chest now withered and died. You do not wish for my attentions, she says. I have to swallow to form a word. No, never. Such a waste. She lays a palm against my cheek, and I flinch. She smiles. How do you propose to rally your people when you are so easily cowed? I will do what I can to save them. A chilling thought wraps around my chest. Are you going to ruin this, Lilith? Are you working with Karis Lorne? I have told you already that I have no hand in this. I can even swear that I will allow your charade to play out. I blink at her. It's rare to obtain such a direct oath from her. You will not interfere with my people? I will not interfere with your people. I'm nearly breathless. And Karis Lorne, you will not reveal our plans? I will not reveal your plans. Her palm is still pressed to my cheek, and she leans in. I truly wish to see her take Emberfall from you, Ren. I shall enjoy watching. This promise gives me strength. I straighten. You shall be disappointed. Your Highness, consider the state of your people. I have. A white light steals my vision. I'm suddenly in the middle of a village. Rain pours down. Bodies are strewn everywhere. Men, women, children. Some have been dismembered. Arrows jet from others. Blood mixes with rain to form glistening puddles along the road. In the distance, homes are burning. Smoke, a thick plume pouring into the sky. My knees threaten to collapse. But I blink and I'm staring at Lilith again. You show me the future? I choke out. No. I show you what the soldiers of Sail Shallow did to your border city. My mouth opens, but my room vanishes again. The city this time, larger, Wildthorn Valley. A brawl has broken out. Men who are too thin to fight are battling over the remains of a roasted deer. A punch is thrown and a woman ends up in the mud. Men step on her trying to get to the dead animal. A child screams from somewhere beyond. I cry out, but I'm back in my chambers. I show you the present, Lilith says, her voice low and vicious. Stop, I whisper, stop this. My room disappears again. We're in the middle of a sunlit village. The scent of fish fills the air, but it's not Silvermoon. Another water-dependent town, though the people seem better fed. A young boy carries a plank laden with fish across his shoulders. He's whistling, and a woman from a nearby hut calls out, Jared, hurry with those to the fishmonger. The day's half gone. I'm going, Ma, I'm going. I can breathe. This scene isn't too terrible. A low growl fills the air. The boy's whistle cuts short. He turns, a look of sudden panic on his face. Jared, screams the woman. No. A black shape rushes from the edge of my vision and tackles the boy. The creature is 3 times his size, part wildcat, part bear, all claws and teeth and snarling rage. It tears him apart in less time than it takes me to blink. One moment, boy. The next moment, nothing but so much blood and flesh and viscera. The woman screams so long and loud I do not realize I have reappeared in my chambers. I'm on my knees, my arms gripped to my abdomen. I've bitten my lip and blood burns on my tongue. I know what my creature does. I've heard stories from Grey, from my people themselves. I have never seen it, never with human eyes. Please, I whimper, please stop. Oh, but your highness, I believe you deserve to know the true state of your people. Lilith's eyes flash. Before you lead them into war, you should know them all. Before you tear Harper limb from limb, you should know what you're capable of. No, a tear slides down my cheek, please. She has no mercy. My room's disappeared. Lilith continues her onslaught. No matter how much I beg, she does not stop. Chapter 33. Harper. I wake up, still swooning. Sunlight beams through my open windows. The warm autumn air carrying the scents of honeysuckle and cut grass. I half expect cartoon butterflies to start flitting around. I would have kissed him. I wanted to kiss him. I can see why he's failed at this curse so many times. He keeps so much of himself hidden. Even now, I feel as though I've barely scratched the surface. This arrogant front makes me wonder what was expected of him before this curse destroyed his life. People here seem afraid of royalty. They seem afraid of him. Based on my first days here, I understand it. But now I've seen the truth. Underneath the arrogant distance, he's caring, deeply loyal, gentle, in fact, so unexpectedly patient. He seems afraid to show that side of himself, as if his people will abandon him if they see it. But he so genuinely cares about protecting them. That weighs on him more than the curse, I think. The thought of finding him this morning leaves me a little giddy. Even Freya comments on it when she arrives to plait my hair. You had a nice evening with the prince, she says coyly, then bumps my shoulder with her hip. I blush so hard my cheeks ache. Freya ties off the braid. I believe he is in the arena with Commander Grey. A teasing pause. If you were curious, my lady. I'm curious. I expect to find more than just Ren and Grey in the dusty circle, but they're alone. Weapons swinging with near blinding speed. They're striking fast, each clash of steel making me flinch. Sweat dampens their hair, telling me they've been at this for a while. I slow as I approach. The air feels different, wrong somehow. The blush fades from my cheek as I try to figure it out. Ren ducks and rushes Grey, hooking his sword to disarm him. Grey slams into the ground and Ren follows him down, sword aimed for the other man's neck. Grey snatches a dagger to stop the blade in time, and his other hand braces against Ren's forearm, holding him back. Their ragged breathing echoes the arena. Something about this feels very personal, like I've walked in on an argument. I want to back away and ease out of the arena, but then I hear Grey's voice low and edged with strain. Your fight is not with me, my lord. Ren swears and shoves himself back, turning away to sheath his sword. His expression is tight, his eyes hard and set. When he finds me standing by the railing, he seems startled. The tension on his face does not ease when he sees me. He's as cold and distant as he was the day I arrived. The butterflies that have been frolicking in my abdomen seize up and die. He offers a curt, my lady. Then he turns and walks to the side of the arena where a small table stands with a pitcher of water. He pours, his movements tight and forced. Something happened. What's wrong? I say. Nothing at all. He drains the glass and ducks back under the railing. He still hasn't looked at me. There could be another attack like in Silvermoon. We should be prepared. I glance at Grey, but he's watching Ren too. He's reclaimed his sword, but he hasn't sheathed his weapon. He watches Ren like he anticipates another attack. Probably a good thing, because Ren draws his sword. I duck under the railing to step in front of him before he swings. He sets his jaw. Move. No. Tell me what happened. He steps closer to me, each movement full of barely contained rage. Finally, his eyes meet mine. You will move, or I will. My lord. Grey's voice is quiet behind me. For a moment, I'm not sure Ren's going to stop at all. But then he does. He looks away. Please, my lady, leave us. If something happened, I say slowly, I need to know. If we're in an alliance, we're not, he says. His voice is so soft that I think I must have misheard him. What? There is no alliance, Harper. It was foolish to think I had an avenue to success here. My people have been run into the ground. Your army is a charade. If we have to fight for Emberfall, who will stand against Karis Lawrence's army? There is no one. I'm so confused. None of that is different from where we were 2 days ago. The door to the arena slams open. Freya stands in the doorway, a little breathless. Your Highness, my lady? Ren does not look away from me. What? Jameson and I took the food to the crossroads as you directed, but the people who arrived there were too numerous to feed, as I suspected, Ren says. His expression turns wary and he sighs. Have Jameson tell them I will send more tomorrow. We did, but they followed the wagon back to the castle. We told them we would bring their message back to you, but there was far too many to refuse, and how many? Hundreds, Your Highness. They followed you here? Ren glances at Grey and starts for the door. He flashes me an angry look, which says, I told you so. Better than his voice could. I wince. He did tell me so. Ren strides through the doorway. Each word he says is tight and clipped. I will speak with them. He glances at Freya. Where is Jameson? Standing guards at the castle door. Against hundreds, says Ren. They could tear him apart. He jogs up the steps to the great hall, and I do my best to follow. Mournful music plays this morning. Low strings plucked on a harp. Hopefully not an omen. Freya lags behind to walk with me. Word must have spread quickly, she says, her voice a quiet rush. These people are not all from Silvermoon. At least 100 of people were in line when we arrived at the crossroads. More quickly joined. Are they fighting? I say, as we reach the top of the steps and hurry after Ren and Grey, a sick feeling churns in my stomach. Ren wanted nothing more than to protect his people, and now my idea might be causing more harm than good. Fighting, she spreads. Yes, I say. Isn't this the kind of protest that we didn't send enough? Isn't this some kind of protest that we didn't send enough food? Ren reaches the door and swings it wide. Sunlight pours into the hall. After his worry about hundreds of people tearing Jameson apart, Ren storms through, Gray right beside him. A roar goes up from the crowd outside. I run for the doorway, sure they're about to swarm him, to attack us all. People have crowded the lawns and the cobblestone walkway. Freya was right, there are hundreds, mostly men and boys, but many women and girls too. Some are armed, wearing cruder versions of the armor I've seen Ren and Gray wear. Others are in simple clothes, most too heavy for the temperate weather out surrounding the castle. They're not yelling, they're cheering. For the good of Emberfall, long live the Crown Prince. Their voices ring out in the courtyard, echoing against the stones of the castle walls. Ren is staring. Jameson moves forward. Your Highness, they are here to fight. We could not stop them from following. To fight, Ren echoes. To fight the soldiers from Sill Shallow, Jameson says. To join the king's army. I step up to Ren. His eyes are still locked on the crowd in front of him. His expression is unreadable. I think of his anger in the arena. At least when Gray is scary Gray, I know who his targets are. With Ren, I have no idea what's going on inside his head. You wonder who's going to stand against Karis Lawrence's army, I say quietly. I think you're getting your answer. The crowd is still chanting, for the good of Emberfall, long live the Crown Prince. And because he is nothing if not enigmatic and calculating, Ren seems to swallow his anger, then moves to the edge of the steps to raise a fist. For the good of Emberfall, he says, for the good of all. Chapter 34. Ren. I focus my thoughts on what I can control. Strategy, tactics, planning. I block what I cannot. Lilith. She left before daybreak, but I did not sleep. I soaked in the bath for hours, sinking beneath the surface, holding my breath until my lungs screamed for release. I've drowned myself before, but I've never wanted it as badly as I did this morning. Every vision she showed me is locked in my thoughts, so vivid I could have lived through each tragedy. I knew my people were suffering. I did not know how much. All at once, I wished for oblivion. I came out of the bath ready to kill something. I am lucky Gray is so skilled. Or maybe he's the one with luck. Ren? I blink. What? Harper opens her mouth, then closes it. Her lips forming a frown. I haven't been able to meet her eyes all morning, and now is no different. We're in the General's library, my father's strategy room, and I stand at the window, watching the people in the courtyard below. I asked if you were pleased, says Harper. People are showing up to volunteer. You can start building your own army. Do you remember our discussion of regiments? My voice sounds hollow, and I am unsure how to fix that. I speak through it. One regiment of Sill Shallow's army could eviscerate the people in the courtyard. You just got them all fired up, she says. If you didn't want them to form an army, why did you all say good of Emberfall? Why did you say all the good of Emberfall stuff? They were already fired up, as you say. I keep my eyes on the people shuffling into a line below. I have no desire to incite a mob. I merely gave them a rallying cry. It's a start, she says. I have nothing to say to that. I wish I were back under the water, holding my breath, waiting for oblivion. I wish I were back in the arena, swinging a sword. Instead, I stand here, every muscle tight as a bowstring. Eventually, Harper says, Gray, what do you think? I think it is good that the people are willing to fight. That their loyalty is not wand. Wand? Something. They seem to believe the royal family is in exile. Most have put aside their fear of the creature of the castle itself to come here to fight for themselves and for Emberfall. He pauses, and his voice gains the very barest edge. They will need someone to lead them. Those words are a warning of sorts, a reminder that I have a role to play here. I've told Gray of what happened with Lilith, but I am certain he guessed at... I've told Gray nothing of what happened with Lilith, but I am certain he's guessed at some of it. I was not subtle in the arena this morning. Can you lead them? Harper says. And I think she's talking to me. No, I think. I can only lead people to their death. Do you not see? I'm not a general, says Gray. I'm not even a soldier. The king's army and royal guard did not train together. Jameson was a soldier, a lieutenant, right? He was. I know he messed up at Silvermoon, but a lieutenant would be some kind of officer, right? Could you go talk to him and figure out a plan for what to do with all of these people once they're divided up by skill? Yes, my lady. He leaves the door softly, falling close behind him. He didn't even wait for me to issue an order. Or maybe he knew I needed her to give one. Harper appears by my side at the window, leaving a good 2 feet of space between us. It was Lilith, wasn't it? She says quiet. I jerk at the mention of her name, and Harper looks over at me with alarm. I wasn't sure if she was what had you so upset, she says, but I haven't heard you talk about anyone else who has the power to throw you off your game like this. She is quite skilled at finding any weakness, I say. So she came back last night. Yes. I braced myself for her to ask what was done, or to ask why I did not invite her to my chambers for another session of bargaining. The very thought turns my stomach, but Harper says nothing. She stands beside me and breathes, much the same way we stood together at the cliff at Silvermoon. So much changed overnight on so many levels. Do you want to talk about it? She says. No. We watched the people in the courtyard for a while. I'm surprised at the variety of volunteers. A boy who can't be more than 6 stands in line. He stares at the castle in wonder, then pokes an older boy beside him, a brother possibly. I think of young Jared being eviscerated in front of me and snap my eyes away. An older woman leans a cane farther down, reminding me of a village elder who lay impaled at Sill Shallow. Impaled by a Sill Shallow spear in another vision, emerging from the woods. More people stream towards the courtyard. One young woman seems familiar, and it takes a moment to place her. Zoe, the musician's apprentice. She is small in stature, but instead of a gown today, she wears breeches and boots, a bow strapped to her back, and a dagger at her hip. A huntress, perhaps. Interesting. I wonder if Gray will turn her away. He should turn them all away. I turn from the window and move back to the strategy table, dropping into the second chair, not the first where my father would always sit. Maps are spread across the surface from whatever meeting my father would have had with his advisors during the first season. I no longer remember. This is not a room I visit often. Harper drifts from the window as well. This is like a big game of Risk, she says, coming to survey the largest map, pinned down in the center of the table. The northern lands showing the mountain range bordering Sill Shallow. Risk, I echo. It's a war strategy game. Harper picks up a small figurine. You even have the little men. I give a short laugh, though I feel no humor. To live in a world where war strategy is a game. Hey, her eyes pierce me. You know, my life isn't sunshine and roses either. I nod, conceding as you say. Show me how it works. I hesitate, not wanting to think of the impending doom of my people to such an extent that I would map it out. But Harper is watching me expectantly. I sigh and rise from the chair, gathering a dozen of the iron pieces into my hands. Sill Shallow is here, I say, placing 6 horse and rider figurines along the mountain range. Jameson said there was a battle at Wilmington, and his regiment was destroyed, which means I can assume Karis Lorne's soldiers control access through the mountain pass. How wide is the mountain pass? She says. Could we set up an ambush or something? I glance up, impressed. We could, but they likely control enough of the surrounding entrance to the path to prevent that very thing. I shake my head. Our best bet will be to give the illusion of strength, not to engage in battle at all, to form the impression of an army size, not necessarily of might. I place more figurines around Iron Rose. If we can form a battalion around the castle, you know I don't know these military words. If we can place groups of soldiers around the castle and then find a way to send messengers to the border cities, instructing them to have their soldiers gather strategically here and here, I place more figurines. It will give the illusion of a well-prepared militia. Harper comes around the table to stand beside me, and she surveys the table as well. So why don't you sound happier? I flash on an image of a home burning while soldiers bar the door, stabbing swords through the slats while people try to escape. I shudder and move away, because I have no idea whether I still have soldiers posted at the borders. I have no one I trust to deliver a secure message. Gray, we need him here if we are to continue visiting the closer cities. I will not send him away for weeks at a time. Something in her expression flickers, right? I frown. What is it? You said weeks at a time. I hadn't thought about this dragging on so long. Ah, her mother, the mission, this curse. Promises nothing but misery in every direction. You still hope to bargain for passage home. You would not have wanted to meet with Lady Lilith last night, my lady, I assure you. Harper studies me. The weight of her eyes presses down upon me. I've seen what Lilith can do, she says. I don't understand what's different. I cannot explain without telling her everything. I drop into my chair and study the array of figurines on the table. One remains trapped between my hands, and I turn it over and over. Harper steps toward me, and the figurine goes still. My muscles are tense, and I have to force myself to remain in the chair. She must notice because she doesn't come closer. She eases into the chair 3 seats away, but then says softly, Do not run from me. Our words from last night. So much has changed between then and now. One night changed so much in so many ways. I can offer nothing but failure. This curse has proved that much. In truth, all Lilith provided was a reminder. I look at Harper and take a breath to make sure my voice is as steady as ever. I will not run. I pause, then rise. But for now, my lady, perhaps you could avoid pursuit. Chapter 35. Harper. As days pass, preparations for war, or the impression of war, hit a fever pitch. A messenger arrives from the North Loch Hills, a town south of the mountain pass, informing Wren that more soldiers from Still Shallow have built a camp there. Suddenly, there are people in and out and around the castle all the time, training in the courtyard and the arena, exercising the horses and repairing weapons. Wren is always occupied. Everyone and everything demands his attention. The only time we spend together is on our rides to neighboring cities, and even then he's walled off. He plays the role of doting prince quite well, but the moment the eyes of his people leave us, he becomes distant and distracted. Gray is always busy too. He selected 10,000 guardsmen from those who applied. I'm an idiot. That does not say 10,000. Gray is always busy too. He selected 10 guardsmen from those who applied, and now his days are filled with drills and training and practice, when he's not guarding Wren himself. To my surprise, Zoe was one Gray chose, and the only female. Gray must trust her, because I regularly find her guarding my door when I wake in the morning. Did you hire Zoe because I made a big deal of it in Silvermoon? I asked Gray one evening, a rare moment when we're alone. We're in the stable, where he's been taking stock of what horses will be best suited for the guards he's chosen. I hired her because she can fight, he says. She is quick with a bow and is sure-footed. Her swordplay is weak, but she is not easily distracted. I believe she will do well. I watched her spar with one of the other applicants, but I don't know what I'm looking at, so that didn't mean much. But wasn't she a musician's apprentice? Yes, my lady. He cinches a saddle on a large chestnut gelding, just as I was once a farm boy. Well, I guess there's that. He slips a bridle onto the horse's head. In the days since people started showing up at the castle, Gray has been more reserved, probably the way he's supposed to be. Out of defense to the Princess of DC. He's one of 2 people who know the truth about me, though. And the only one I can ask about Wren. In a minute, he's going to be through the doorway, and I'm going to lose another chance to talk to him. Gray, I say quietly, wait, please. He waits, of course, and looks at me, though his expression gives away nothing. I realize he expects an order, or some kind of request. I don't want to give him an order. I need him to be my friend. Maybe I've always closed the door on that. Forget it, I say suddenly. I suddenly feel more alone than ever. Go ahead, you're busy. My lady, he says quietly. When I turn back, he's taken a step closer to me. His eyes search mine. You are troubled. Wren's still not speaking to me, I say softly. Gray glances away. He knows. Is he speaking to you? He hesitates. No, he is not. Do you think Lilith is secretly torturing him at night? Gray glances at the opposite end of the aisle, where a stable hand is sweeping spilled grain. Even when we're alone, we're never truly alone anywhere. We're riding to Hutchins Forge this evening, he says. I remember. Some dinner with a Grand Marshal who has his own private army. Wren said I wasn't needed, Gray says. I do not believe Prince Wren will be displeased if the journey lasts well into the night. Meaning Lilith won't be able to bother him. I swallow. I can't help him I can't help him if he won't talk to me, Gray. He's not trying to break the curse. He's not stopping her, I break off, frustrated. I've been trying to give him space, but I don't know what to do. Gray moves closer until his words are for me alone. He will deny you nothing, my lady. Not even that which he doesn't want to give. Oh, I stare up at him. Gray draws back. He glances at the doorway and the slowly darkening sky. Forgive me, the light fades. He clucks to the horse and heads out of the stables. Zoe waits outside the stables, ready to escort me back to my chambers. When we get to my door, I stop before closing myself inside. Zoe, could you please send word to the prince that I would like to join him on his trip to Hutchins Forge? Yes, my lady. She gives me a nod and moves away. While she's gone, I charge out of the rank riding clothes and rinse quickly in the ever-present warmth of the bathtub. Then find fresh clothes suitable for visiting with nobility. A knock sounds at the door. Enter, I say, please. Zoe opens the door and comes in, but her expression says she's not returning with good news. His Highness says your presence is not warranted nor required. My mouth forms a line. So much for denying me nothing. Great. I am sorry, Zoe says softly. Ren asked me not to pursue him. I've been trying. But this isn't an alliance anymore. I don't know what this has turned into. What did Gray say? Not even that which she does not want to give. I look up at Zoe and wonder if she'll take my order over Ren's. Call for horses, I say. We're going after them. Surprise lights her eyes. I expect her to refuse. She doesn't. Yes, my lady, right away. Hutchins Forge is smaller than Silvermoon, less fortified, and the tired guard waves us through the gate with barely a glance. In many of these cities, we've learned security is only about the monster, not about people. We've been traveling slowly, because I don't want Ren to see me following or send me home. My only option here is to join him in front of his subjects, where he won't risk an incident. It's late enough that the streets aren't crowded. The horses' hooves clop on the slush-coated cobblestones. The Grand Marshal's residence is there, says Zoe quietly, nodding at a large home that towers the rest of the city. A bow is strapped to her back, along with a quiver of arrows. Should we circle around and come from the opposite direction? She hesitates. If your goal is not to be detected. I give her a surprised glance. She smiles, but is hesitant, as if she's unsure how I'll respond. Was I not to have noticed? After Ren's aloofness and Gray's austerity, it's nice to have a companion who knows how to smile and isn't telling me what to do. I can't help smiling back. I'm glad you did. We leap through the city streets. Few people are out, but rumor has spread this far. People notice the crest on my cloak or on Zoe's armor, and they bow or curtsy as we pass. We navigate around to the far side of the Grand Marshal's home and untie the horses at the post there. A low wall surrounds the building, forming a small, empty courtyard out front. The guests have all moved inside. I study the building. It's so quiet out here in the lightly falling snow. Candles flicker in every window, but there are no sounds to indicate danger. I have no idea where Ren and Gray are, or whether the silence is meaningful or menacing. The courtyard isn't huge, though, and it's clear we're alone. The Grand Marshal should have guards, says Zoe quietly. I was here with the Master of Song at Summer's End. He had 4 guards in the courtyard. Now there are none. I've been to enough cities to know this is unusual. I've been so worried about Lilith torturing Ren that I didn't really consider what would happen if a threat emerged in one of the cities. Most of our guards are young or untested, as proven by the girl who so eagerly accompanied me outside the castle. We should go in, I finally say. The snow silences our footsteps. When we move into the courtyard, I realize Zoe has drawn her bow. She freezes. Her voice drops to barely more than a breath. My lady, just there. A body in the snow, hidden in the shadowed corner of the courtyard. Throat cut, a crimson stripe in the snow. He's wearing a Royal Guard uniform. It takes me a moment. But then I recognize the shock of red hair. His name is Maeve. A knife sticks out of his neck. Snow is collected in the hollows of his face, covering his eyes. My breathing shakes. We were almost killed in Silvermoon Harbor. And then we had Gray and Jameson. Tonight I have a dagger and I have Zoe. It's so cold and we're so alone. I look at her, but she's looking at me. I'm the princess, and I'm in charge. I've never been in charge of anything. At home, Jake always told me what to do. In Emberfall, it's always Ren, or in his own way, it's Gray. I feel a flicker of the responsibility Ren must feel for his people. Zoe will do as I say. She's risking her life. All I can think about is Gray saying, my duty is to bleed, so you do not. Let's go, I say. Zoe nods and follows, a shadow at my side. Her arrow sits ready on the string. The door gives when I push. For a long, ominous moment, I hear nothing. The home is eerily quiet. The front room is empty. So we slip down the central hallway. A man laughs loudly from somewhere at the back of the house, a long, blooming sound. Others join in, then Ren's voice. Grand Marshal, I've missed your humor. My father would often speak of what a joy your support meant to him. He's alive. He's laughing. For a second, I wonder if we're wrong. I wonder if I'm going to screw something up. But Maeve's body lies in the courtyard. That's not normal. And Ren wouldn't be laughing if he knew about it. To our left, a door opens and Zoe swings around, her bow raised. A servant girl shrieks and drops the platter she was carrying. Silverware rings to the stone floor. Dishes of soup shatter upon impact. Suddenly we're surrounded by guards. Ours, including Gray, and some who must belong to the Grand Marshal. All have weapons drawn. Beyond them, men have appeared at the far end of the hallway. Ren is one of them. His expression is tight. My lady, he pauses. I thought you were otherwise occupied this evening. The servant girl is crouched on the floor, whimpering, her hands over her head. My plans changed, I count quickly in my head. 7 guards block the hallway, but only 3 are ours. 2 men stand with Ren. It seems like there are more people in the room behind him. We're outnumbered 2-1. And I still have no idea who killed Maeve. Nothing about this meeting feels right. Ren's eyes bore into mine, then flick past me to take in Zoe, who still has an arrow knocked. I clear my throat before he can say anything. Forgive my tardiness. I apologize for giving the servant girl such a fright. I stride forward as if I expect the guardsmen to fall back and yield the hallway, and they do. The hall gives way to a large dining room with marble floor and painted ceramic tiles lining the walls in gold and red, the colors of Emberfall. The guards shift to filter back into the room, taking positions along the wall in the hallway. I hear the serving girl hurriedly trying to gather the dishes. Zoe stays right at my side, her bow still in her hands and the arrow trained on the ground. Ren is glaring at me, but he says, allow me to introduce the Grand Marshal of Hutchins Forge and his seneschal. Gentlemen, I give them a tense nod. The Grand Marshal is a thin man with a lean, wiry build and narrow beard. His expression is thoughtful and calculating, and his seneschal is opposite in every way, large with a belly that all but sits in his lap, a thick beard that seems greased, and small beady eyes. He's the smug one. I wish Ren and I weren't completely at odds. At least on my first day in Emberfall, I knew his motives. Now nothing makes sense. I would like to speak with you privately, I say to Ren. The seneschal gives me a once-over and chuckles and shakes his whole body. It's not a good sound. Your Highness, I have heard talk of your scarred warrior princess, but I did not realize she would be so. His eyes flick over my form. Small. He elbows the Grand Marshal. They share a good laugh, but Ren says, do not underestimate the princess. His voice could cut steel. The Grand Marshal's laughter goes quiet, but he does not apologize. We're all friends here. Surely you can speak openly, my lady. I look to Ren, hoping he'll disagree, but his gaze is still unyielding, and he's more concerned with the fact that I'm crashing his party. This all feels so precarious. I stand behind a chair and fix my hands on the back of it to keep from fidgeting. Where are your guards, Grand Marshal? I expected to be greeted when I arrived. You seem to make your way in here all right. He narrows his eyes as if I'm still funny. I don't control my men's every move. I have a private army. No one would dare attack my home. One of our guards is dead in your courtyard, I say. Forgive me if I do not find much reassurance in the strength of your army. Tension falls like an axe. Explain this, Ren says. Gray moves from the wall to stand behind him. He gives a low order to one of our guards by the wall, a sandy-haired man named Dustin. Dustin nods, then moves to leave the room. You must be mistaken, says the Central. He laughs again. But now it's more of a choked sound. Nim, go with their guardsmen. Check it out. The man who must be Nim shifts away from the wall to follow our guard. As Nim passes me, he begins to draw his weapon. I don't know why, but that makes my thoughts stall. The Grand Marshal is glaring at me. Why do I feel like you're accusing me of something, girl? This girl is the Princess of DC, Ren says carefully. He must sense danger too. Perhaps you were unaware. The Grand Marshal's eyes don't leave mine. I'm aware. You invited Prince Ren to your home for some type of negotiation, I say. But to me, it seems more like a trap. Why does Emberfall need my army if DC is willing... Why does Emberfall need my army if DC is willing to provide its forces? I wish I could order Grey to throw a knife at him. This is so much more complicated than when we face the soldiers at the inn. I raise an eyebrow. Why would you kill our guard if your interest in negotiation were genuine? Who says I killed your guard? When Ren speaks, his voice is low and lethal. I would like an answer to the princess's question. The Central leans forward. If your man was a true member of the royal guard, he would not have fallen so easily. He coughs and his body shakes. I suspect you are not being wholly honest, your highness. I suspect you are not, says Ren. Your father would not have needed my men, says the Grand Marshal. Did you have my guardsmen killed? What difference does it make? The Central laughs. What will you do? Execute you both for treason, says Ren. You and what army? He slaps the table. His hand barely struck the wood surface before Gray's sword is level with his throat. The man's laughter cuts short. He strains back in his chair. A spot of red appears on his neck. I need no army to deal with you, says Ren. One of the guards begins to draw his sword, and Zoe's arrow is flying before I can even issue an order. The shaft drives right through the man's wrist. He screams. Another guard draws his sword. Zoe has another arrow knocked, but Ren snaps, hold. She holds. Her breathing is loud and rush beside me. The other guards go still too. Tension rides a knife's edge in this room. Everyone has weapons drawn now, but no one else has engaged. Noise echoes in the hallway behind me and Zoe, all but pushes me to the side. Her arrow is pointed, but it's our guard Dustin, and he's dragging a bound Nim back down the hallway. Maeve is dead, he says breathlessly. This one did it. He nearly got me. Ren steps back. It was an ambush. Kill them both. No, cries the Grand Marshal, and he slides out of his chair and falls to his knees. We didn't ambush you, I swear it. I admit suspicion, but I have always been loyal to the crown. You killed a guard, I snap. What else would you call it? I swear it. His voice has grown in pitch. I swear. The Central coughs again. Have some pride, man. Then he spits at Ren. Commander. Ren's eyes shift to Grey. No, says the Grand Marshal. His forehead touches the ground. Please, I swear this was not treason. Wait, I say. I look at the guard Dustin has pinned against the wall in the hallway. Nim, who gave you the order to kill our guard? He says nothing. Dustin pinches him between the shoulder blades. The man coughs and drops to his knee. I served the Central. I had him killed. The Central says. Why? Demands Ren. To show your weakness, he winces and gasps at Gray's sword as Gray's sword finds his skin again, to bargain the higher price for skilled soldiers. Ren steps forward and grabs the collar of the Grand Marshal's jacket. He jerks the man to his knees, and his voice is tight and unyielding. So you sought to trick the crown out of silver? No, your highness, he acted alone. His voice almost stammering. I swear my loyalty to the crown. I would offer all I have. Ren looks at the Central. Is it true you acted alone? I didn't need help to outwit you, if that's what you're asking. Ren's jaw tightens. He looks down at the bearded man whose collar is still clutched in his grip. Grand Marshal, I will pay your men a fair price for their services. I would like a full accounting of the taxes your people have been ordered to pay, and if I see that they've been charged 1 penny more than necessary, they will be reimbursed from your own coffers. Yes, your highness, he winces. Please have mercy on my Central. He has a family. You have been gone so long. Forgive him. Ren looks at Grey. Fall back. Grey lowers his weapon. The Central puts a hand to his neck. His breathing still shakes And then he chokes out a rusty laugh. You'll never stand against Karis Lauren. You could barely stand against this room, he coughs. I hope the creature returns to the castle and slaughters you all. You took a man's life for your own selfishness and greed. You sought to undermine me and my personal guard, all by your own admission. He leans forward. That, sir, is treason. It won't be the last, surely not, but you'll be an example for those who seek the same. Ren steps back. Kill him, Commander. Leave the body. I inhale, whether to scream or protest or something else entirely, but it's too late. The man's throat is cut. He slumps in his chair. Blood flows. Beside me, Zoe's breath is every bit as quick as my own. My hands are over my mouth. Then Ren is in front of me. His eyes are hard and his voice is steel-edged. He glances at Zoe. Nice shot. She swallows. Thank you. Thank you, Your Highness. His eyes shift back to me, my lady. I'm staring at him over my hands. I don't know what to say. I don't know what to do. An emotion flickers in his eyes, almost too quick for me to catch it. But I do. It's not the harsh censure I expect. It's resignation, defeat, sorrow, fear. He must see the responding pity in my eyes because he glances away. His expression is walled off. He sighs. Come, princess. I'll see you to your horse. We ride back to Iron Rose in silence. Ren by my side with Zoe, Dustin, and Gray trailing behind. The remaining guards have been left to ensure the Grand Marshal follows orders. Tension makes the falling snow feel like daggers. The cold air snakes between us, reminding me of the night on the cliff at Silvermoon, the night we nearly kissed, the night everything fell apart. Would you say nothing? I say quietly, please. Would you say something? I say quietly, please. You do not wish my conversation now, lady, I assure you. His voice is tight with fury, and his horse tosses its head, fighting his grip on the reins. I'll take anything over days of silence. You should not have come tonight. Maybe something is lost in translation, because it sure doesn't sound like thank you. You expect my thanks? His head snaps around. You did not know of his plot. What if assassins had waited in the halls? What if your guard were a lesser shot? What if they were working together? We were badly outnumbered. They could have slaughtered every one of us. I don't know what to say, so I say nothing. He's right on all counts. What you did was reckless and foolish, Ren says. I turn my head and glare at him. I saved you. The man's plot would have come to light. Gray would have stopped him. He takes a breath. Now a man is dead by my order. Once again, I bring my people but death and suffering. For an instant, I see the resignation I caught a glimpse of earlier, but I reach out to touch his hand. He snatches it away. Tense now, his eyes fixed ahead. You were lucky it was not your body I found in the courtyard. I brought Zoe. You are so very reckless. Just like in the arena, you act without thought. I acted in the arena to protect you. His jaw is tight. I've never seen him so angry. It's triggering my own anger. I meant what I said. I'll take anger over endless silence. I think of his flash of emotion in the hallway at the Grand Marshal's home. I force myself to take a breath. Please tell me what's happening. My words are so quiet, pressed into this tiny bit of space we occupy, as if even the night wants to keep this moment private. I know it's Lilith. It has to be Lilith. You made an alliance with me. Keep it. Tell me what's going on. He inhales. I watch his broad chest expand, and his eyes flash with anger, a sure prelude to more fury. But his breath hitches, and he kind of deflates. We ride in silence, and it's like all the fight has gone out of him. Ren, I whisper, I will not release you from our bargain, he says softly. I will release you from our bargain, he says softly. I no longer have anything to offer. I turn and look over my shoulder at the guards. Fall back, I say, please. Gray meets my eyes and then gives a nod. They drop back a dozen yards. I don't want you to release me, I say. I want to know what's going on. He doesn't answer. He says nothing. We ride for miles. Finally, he says, I feel trapped, my lady. His voice is so quiet. I swore a bargain with you, but I find I cannot invite you into her presence again. I inhale to speak, but then he looks over at me. His eyes flick to the scar on my cheek. Then I understand. You think she'd hurt me again. A nod. But she's hurting you, Ren. I have endured it for hundreds of seasons. What is another? His voice is so bleak. Does she torture you every night? I whisper. She does nothing to me. She shows me what I have done. I don't understand. He swallows. Every night she comes to me. She shows me my people, those who have died, those who are starving, those who are in pain. He presses a hand to his abdomen. She shows me the creatures. She shows me their deaths, their pain, their suffering. I cannot endure it. I want to kill her. Ren, you are trying to save them. I am failing, Harper. Even tonight, I had nothing to offer but death and pain and fear. He presses the heel of one hand against his eyes. I have never wished so badly for a season to end. His voice breaks, and he takes a shuddering breath. You're not killing them, I say fiercely. You're trying to save them. I am killing them, my lady. I'm doing it one by one. You are not, I snap. Even tonight, that guy was trying to trick you out of money for his soldiers. Your first thought wasn't of yourself. You worried that they'd been stealing from their people, too. You cannot paint me in a better light, he says. I know what I have done. I see it night after night. You're doing the best you can, I say to him. For some reason, my father pops into my head. The bad men he led to our family. He abandoned us, but maybe he thought he was doing the best he could, too. Ren drags his hand away from his face. I do not know how to lead my people when all I see are my failures. You're leading them, I say softly. The Grand Marshal swore to you tonight. You have a castle full of people who have sworn to you. You once told me you were raised to rule a country, and you're doing it. Please, he says to me, please, I beg of you. You do not understand. I beg of you. His words break my heart, because they're not words he would ever say. Okay, I whisper. Okay, just ride. We travel the rest of the way to the castle in silence. He's regained his composure by the time he hands his horse to the boy in the stable. He turns to lead me back into the castle. He stops in front of my door. The last time we stood here, we'd just returned from Silvermoon. I'd been a breath away from kissing him. Tonight his eyes are full of resignation. I bid you good night, my lady. Much like in the courtyard in Hutchins' forge, I don't know what to do. But I do know I need to help him. Why don't you come in? That startles him. Maybe it's the tired eyes or the slumped shoulders, but he's never looked so young. What? Stay in my room tonight. Lilith isn't allowed to interfere in your courtship, right? A line forms between his brows. Let me court you, I falter, realizing how that sounds. A blush heats my cheeks. I mean, not really. I mean, I'm just my lady. He straightens. I will not put you at risk. You once said you would give me anything in your power. He sighs. Now you will trap me with my words. I'm not trapping you, I step closer. I'm not chasing you. I'm not tricking you. He says nothing. I'm inviting you, I say quietly. He hesitates, then offers me a nod.